What's up, guys? My name's Dave, and today I'm going to show you how to play Cassidy. It's a pretty simple song, beautiful, written by Bob Weir and John Perry Barlow, which I wanted to talk about them a little bit, but let's get right into it. I got the Without a Net version, which was a live compilation of 1989-1990s shows. It's a great, this just takes me back to my youth. One of the first probably like live, it was like a 3-disc set. Without a Net has like a cowboy or there's a horse. Anyhow, it's a great collection of tracks, and this is the version that I wanted to use. So we'll get right into it, and I'll kind of walk you through the stuff, and got notes. We'll do the whole thing. So here we go. It's going to open with the E. The bass line's pretty simple in the beginning. And here we go. E to A. E major, A major. A major, and then E minor. F sharp to A. F sharp minor to A. To E. And then we go through it all over one more time. So that whole verse section, we're going to go through it again, but I just wanted to stop, talk a little bit about it. So you open with E, A, just 4 measures. So E, A, and then a major. And then you go to E minor, A minor. And the reason I think, I did a little bit of research on this tune, and so there's the song Cassidy, the name Cassidy references both Neil Cassidy, who is part of the, if you're familiar with the history, the Merry Pranksters, and they had the bus, the Further bus. Neil Cassidy was the guy driving the bus. Like, he was a huge part of this whole beat generation and a big part of that whole Merry Pranksters, and they were involved with the Grateful Dead in the early years and all the LSD and everything. So it's referencing Neil Cassidy, who passed away around this time, and also around this time. And they may have written the song like the night this baby was born, but some friends of, I think it's goddaughter, John Barlow's goddaughter, her name was Cassidy, born around that time, and they wrote. And so the song has a theme of birth and death and rebirth, and kind of how life just keeps going. And the reason I bring this up is because of the I know very little about music theory and even like chord expression and what all this means, right? But I did a little bit of digging, and the major chords, like the elements of a major chord in any key. A major chord would be light, bright, positive, and open, and probably symbolic of like birth, a beginning, and there's like a positivity and a growth and things to it, to the feeling of that, the sound of that chord, the emotional context of that. And in minor chords would be dark and introspective and melancholy, which would, in this instance, would probably represent death. And so it's cool that they start with 4 bars of major, and then they go right into 4 bars of minor. So you got your birth and your death. And I didn't want to get into all the lyrics and everything because I don't want to make this a whole forever video, but that's what's going on. And then also about the simplicity of this song. If you look at it, they do different things. And then there is the major and the minor stuff. But however, the notes used in this song are E, or the chords from E and A and F sharp and B. You move around different ways, but it's just those 4 chords. I'm sure if you drill down, I think one of the F sharps is a little different than the other, but as far as for us bass players and playing the roots and the octaves, and we're kind of sticking to like the triad, the root, the third, and the 5th. Now, I know very little about music theory, but I do know off of the major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oops, 6, 7, 8. And so you have the 3rd and the 5th, root, 3rd, 5th. And that's a major triad. And this is a minor. And that's what the 3rd is, the character that makes it either a major or a minor chord. From what I gather, like I said, I'm just trying to help here, so bear with me. E major, A major, E minor, A minor. And let's back it up because I want to show you what Phil's doing. I've got mostly of what he's doing. So let's get after that. So we're just the root octave, 7, 9. And then I'm getting, it's just like a real simple E to the A. And then maybe a, but when he goes to minor, it gets kind of funky. So what I got, basically the opening is very simple. Lost down on a country mile in his Cadillac. And then it's like the, he does that. It's so it'd be 7, 5, and then 7, 9, 7, 9, 7, 9. So it's boom, root, 3rd, and then it goes to the A, to the open G. So that's a 7, 9, 10, 7, 9, open. Watch, it's cool, and it's kind of trippy, which is, is very Phil-esque. But I heard that open G was like, ooh, it adds a little depth. You're not just playing a generic funk fill. It added a little bit of zip to it. So let's back that up though, and I'll turn my bass down a little bit so we can hear him do it. Here it comes. And then kind of something similar to the F sharp, to the A. To A. To E. To the minor. Real quick. So that's where I noticed the major parts are pretty just boom. Lost and more open, and then when you go to the minor is when he that's the first go round. Whoops. And the second time he goes to the minor, though, it would be boom. So he's the same boom, to that A, which is the 7 on the D string there. So boom, 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 to the A. And then the move after that is, so it's 7, 9, 10, and then he'll go 12, 11, 10. So whoops. something like that. But those are the notes that I hear him using. Phil is so complex. When you really listen to each passage, he'll add a little rhythmic variant each time, or you know what I mean? It's just like, gee, it makes it difficult. But I've been able to pick these notes out, so I just wanted to give them to you, and just listen to this and dig into it, sink your teeth into it, and absorb as much as you can from Phil. So let's keep going. So you played, this is the verse section, and then we go back up and we play it the second time, and then we go to the big down in an icy hot, catch cold draws a coffee pot. So we're ending the second verse. Here we go. F sharp to A to E. So it's just A to E. And you'll resolve on B. Whoops. Yeah. So, like I say, we do 2 verses, and then we do which is very basic. Again, I don't want to, I know Phil is doing something more than that, but I don't want to, I guess now is a good time for my disclaimer that, man, I get so many great messages from you guys, but every time I do a Phil Lesh bass line, there's always some, like, dude, you're not getting it, man. It's not even, God, and so I guess, yeah, this is not a Phil Lesh bass line. I'm trying to show you how to play the song, and then anything that I can decipher that he's doing, like the notes that he's using, I'll include that every time. But Phil is such a different player than me. That's why I really resonate with John Kahn. It's more of a groove, root-based playing, and Phil is the entire he's in his own world, and it's so, really, when you drill down on it, it's so advanced and so complex. He was well-versed in classical music composition. He's a classic music nerd. Nerd, I mean, you know what I mean, though? He was into that world before he ever got into rock and blues and all that stuff. So he shows up, before he even picked up the bass, he was studying at UC Berkeley and studying classical music composition, stuff like Stravinsky and other names I forgot. But so his whole approach, all of his influences, everything is so different than where I came from. And so for me, trying to I got it. I see what he's doing here. It's like, that's never the case. It's never the case. So I'm just trying to, and two, about my upbringing, like I have zero, I just learned by ear and by friends showing me stuff and just grinding through this. So I really have no theoretical understanding of what the hell any of this means. You know, for me, I'm a construction worker. It's nuts and bolts, and it's logic and reason, and this is why we do this, is because that's what it takes. And so I look at music much more, I guess, logically and mechanically, even, you know, just fly to the seabirds. Like for me, it's like, oh, that's F sharp minor or whatever to E to B, and whatever that means. But to me, it's this. Like, I know that's an F sharp and that's a E and that's a B, but it doesn't make heads or tails to me. You know what I mean? Like, I know what this song sounds like. I know so anyhow, that disclaimer, sorry, I knew this was going to take forever. So we play this part twice, and then we do the fixing an icy hot, catch cold jobs a coffee pot. Do this 3 times, and we hang on the B, and then you hit the fly to the seabirds, scattered like lost words twice, and then 3rd time, And those notes are, which usually I don't think Phil plays those, but if you wanted to use them in the jam or whatever, it's E, and then it's 7, 5, 4, 5, 4, 7, boom. Or you could play it the octave. So, yeah, so that gets us to Fly to the Seabirds here. And then we're going to go through, like, it's kind of a, not the full verse section, but if you know this song, we'll get into that. And then we kind of have this thing, abridged version, and then we do another verse section. Then we go into the jam. So let's kind of play through that. See? The F sharp to the A. Yeah. So we go to the jam. So researching this as well, this is where I learned about the Lydian mode. And I talked about modes a lot before, Mixolydian, which is the Dead uses an awful lot, and it's helped me get a little bit of a understanding on some trickier songs using a mode, the pattern of the mode. So without getting into the theoretical jargon of what Lydian is and what it means and all that stuff, just the pattern itself from the E, the 7th fret, it's in E Lydian, this jam is. So it would be 7, 9, 6, 8, 9, 6, 8, 9. And then, whoops, yeah, it's, there we go. And that, yeah, because that's the sharp 4. Something in my research too was like, eventually you'll kind of hint to that sharp 4 in the jam. But so that, whoops, 9, 8, 6, 9, 8, 6, 9, 7. And it would be 7, 6, 4, 7, 6, 4, 2, open. So when we get to the jam, and I listen to this too, it opens very kind of, and I guess the Lydian mode is supposed to feel kind of dreamy and airy and all that. And so he starts, I hear Phil for, maybe 12 or 16 bars, just kind of boom, boom. And then it's like just like that, just some, so we'll listen to it though. See? It would be like, and there is a chord change. I think at a certain point he goes to F sharp. Still kind of pedaling that E. Do do do. So I'm just kind of noodling because it's hard to hear really where he's going in the jam, but it is that Lydian mode. You just kind of noodle around that. It's important to think too, because I used to do this, is if a song, it's in mixo, Scarlet Begonias, or it's in, I think it is, it's in mixo, and so then every chord, that pattern, all attached to every single chord, and it usually works, but I think in this context, the Lydian is not, it doesn't work through the verse and the chorus section, because it is a little too, it's just not, and again, this is just what I read. So, I mean, but I have tried, I remember trying, and I was like, I'll just do Lydian the whole thing, and it sounds a little, So I think during the verse and the chorus, you want to be a little more major, minor, kind of root, structured, and then when it gets to the jam, if you want to get trippy and out there, that's the move. But I'd stay a little more focused during the first part of the song. Like I say, it's really a simple song. If you know it in your heart, and you go to play it, there's not a lot of options. There's only four chords or four notes to focus on. So let's finish out the jam here. And to note is, and you always want to know this when you're going into a jam, especially if you party a little bit when you play and all that stuff. It's like a Jedi, knows when you go into like a trippy jam that's going to get out there and stuff. Before you even start, you already know what you're coming out of the jam with, where everybody coalesces, and that in this case is "Fly to the Seabirds," which is the 9/7/7. So we're gonna boom, 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 and get all out there and whatever, and then fly to the seabird. So, just a heads up. There we go. He's in F sharp. I'm sorry. It goes to G sharp. Let's back the end of that jam up. And that way, if you play it this way, a lot of times you might just do the A Lydian jam and a Fly to the Seabirds. But in this case, this version, he moves to a G sharp for a few beats, and then they hit Fly to the Seabirds. Check it out. There's that G sharp. 4, 2, 3, 4.
Fly to the seabird, scattered like lost word. Wheel to the storm and fly.
Great version. Probably the first version of Cassidy that I kind of grew up with. That part too, they don't do it in this version, but I listened to it several Cassidys getting ready for this video, and a lot of times Phil will play this, or he might be playing it here, but it's that E, the oh no, but I know, oh, I don't know, oh. Anyhow, that's something to note. But yeah, like I say, if you focus on getting a major thing for the first half of that, and then funk, kind of doing a little trippy boom. That's that pull off stuff. You can always use that to, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But you always have the option of, doing those pull offs and stuff. And I wrote this down. So, written by Bob Weir, John Perry Barlow, and it got me to thinking, because Jerry Garcia, Robert Hunter are kind of the big. Everybody always hears, it's a Garcia Hunter tune. Ripple and Scarlet Begonias and He's Gone and just Wharf Rat, like all the these classic legendaries. But then so this got me, and then of course with Bob Weir's passing and everything, it just gets you to thinking differently. And so Bob and John Barlow work together a lot, and he's out. And John Barlow's featured. There's Amazon has a Long Strange Trip. It's like a documentary on the Grateful Dead. It's fantastic if you haven't seen it. Long Strange Trip, and it features John Barlow a lot. And I didn't realize who he was when they did all the interviews with him. So let's see here. Where are we at? The songs written by Bob Weir, John Barlow: Cassidy, Mexicali Blues, Estimated Profit, Looks Like Rain, Black Throated Wind. The Music Never Stopped, Throwing Stones, and Hell in a Bucket. And I'm sure there's more. Like I say, I just wanted to grab since that's what we're doing here. So, just wanted to bring that to your attention, because you think of these songs, and it's a departure. Looks Like Rain is nothing like Scarlet Begonias, or you know what I mean, and it's just cool. It's just cool, and I think it just adds to the depth of their catalog, and and the older you get, these songs, man, they're emotional, and a lot of them are about life and love and loss. I mean, you name it. This one's about birth and death, and just really cool. So, that's my Cassidy. I hope it helped. Like I say, I'm just trying to give you guys. I'm just trying to help. If it's not working for you, you can just, you don't have to watch. But like I say, 100 good messages is great. And one guy sends you, he's just kind of a jerk, and it's like, that's in my head forever. But nevertheless, thank you guys for sticking around. I hope this helped. And any requests, any way I can help, don't hesitate to reach out. And it's a rainy week here in Stockton, so I'm going to be have some downtime, and I'll have some time to work on some music. So I hope to come back here real soon with some more fun stuff. All right, guys. Thanks. Peace.